over spring break. We'll get started very shortly.
I want to be respectful of everyone's time. We do ask that when you're dialed in, if you're not talking, you do mute your phone. I understand that many of us are on speaker right now. You want to mute your phone and unmute it when you're going to talk. You also want to make sure on the top left of the bar in the webinar itself, next to the little speaker icon, you click that and you mute your speakers and your microphone on your laptop. This is Ben Conklin speaking. I'm here with Regina.
Yes, we're live and for you.
All right, we got some live action here, so we'll see how this works out for us. I know technology can sometimes bungle things up for us. If we have any big problems, we're going to make sure that we're not wasting everyone's time and we'll shut down. But as of now, it seems like most of us are signed in and we're ready to go. We wanted to do a little check to make sure that we call on people appropriately and we don't have everyone trying to talk at the same time. We wanted to go over how you raise your hand to be addressed by one of the presenters. So if everyone could try out, on the top of the webinar bar, you'll see an icon that looks like a person holding their hand up. When you click that little down arrow, you'll have an option to click raise your hand. If everyone would go ahead and raise their hand, see that presented in the attendees box. I see a bunch of us already doing that. And once everyone has their hands raised, we'll go ahead and click it again. But for now, leave it clicked. We want to make sure we get some others in. See, we have some good representation from all across Iredell County here. Again, I do see some phone numbers and not actual names. I'm unclear as to why that is, but don't be offended when you are called upon if we reference you as the last 4 digits in your phone number and not by your actual name. I apologize for it being so impersonal, but I guess that's what we're going to be left to do. Waiting for a few more folks to go ahead and raise their hands so they're clear as to how to do so. Carol Hinson, Mike, Sean, if you're here, go ahead and raise your hand. Above on the top bar in the webinar, you'll see the icon. It looks like someone's hand raising up. You click that down arrow, and you can then click where it says raise hand. There's also some other options there, agree, disagree. All right, we're going to go ahead and continue. Go ahead and click now again to lower your hand, and let's make sure that everyone clears their hand raising. Perfect. All right, with everyone signed in and some of our celebrations mentioned, and you've let us know where you teach and what you teach, it's good to hear from everyone again. We're really excited. Coming up on April 5th for our next face-to-face. We feel that our last meeting...
Absolutely. Very impressed with the level of professionalism that we saw and the amount of ideas coming out of it.
I also want to thank everyone for contributing on the Moodle. I know we had set aside this week to put our post on there, and many of you have been super achievers. And if I had any stickers, I'd be handing them out right now because there's been lots of participation on that website. Beyond what we originally thought would happen this early. So thank you for contributing on the Moodle. And hopefully this meeting will help reiterate some of the things that have already been mentioned on the Moodle. There's a couple purposes for this webinar. As you see here on our brief agenda, we're going to outline some of the things that we hope to achieve over the next 25 minutes or so. Basically, we wanted to hear from everyone to check in to see how far you've come and how successful it has been employing the civil conversation model. We wanted to get some reflections and feedback from what you've done so far and what you hope to do, both positive and perhaps some negative things that you've come across. And any of the things that people have struggled with, we hope as a group to maybe brainstorm some solutions and learn from each other. I know many of us have had positive experiences, but some of us do have some things that we maybe want to better for the next time. And we're just going to make sure that we're all on the same page moving forward and what our actual next steps are as we continue through this initiative, following through with the particulars of this grant. So thanks again for everyone for being with us today. And we're going to move on in our agenda to our next component, which is the reflections. You'll notice on the screen there we have a few bullet points to be mindful of. We want to know what worked well in your classroom, first off, and implement what to do in your. And has anyone used the procedure? I do notice we have feedback on the phone right now, so just make sure that your phone is muted when not actually talking. And if anyone would like to raise their hand, we would love to hear from somebody as far as how it went implementing the civil conversation in their classroom, any successes or so that they've had. I know two of my colleagues down the hall from me, Matthew Payne and Justin Oates, have done this civil conversation model and had positive experience with it. Maybe I could put one of you on the spot to raise your hand, and we could all benefit from your experience. All right, Mr. Oates.
Hey there, Mr. Conklin.
Hey, sir.
Yeah, I was able to implement it in two of my courses. One a civics course, the other American history one. And I found the topic I chose in civics works better. Just dealing with a pro and con article from Newsella, and won't get into the content, but once we got started, the students did give me some feedback that they liked it. They liked talking to each other, and you know, as conversations were going on, I was able to walk around and kind of join in on some of them and help create some better understanding. And it just I did mention it was hard to assess the whole thing, but
yes,
they were talking and got some good interaction out of it.
Yeah, I imagine at first, especially when we begin doing lessons like this, most of the assessment is rather informal with you as the professional, just conversating with the class and getting some feedback that way. But overall, do you think that your students benefited from following this model?
I think so, especially in the one class I did it in. Several of them asked if we could do it again, and you could tell that they were engaged, which is oftentimes, what I feel like we're trying to do in the social studies is engage the students and have them, be passionate about what they're learning. So, I that aspect goes, finding something that interests them that they can talk about, and then using the model to organize it, really helped them. And they did well coming up with questions. The portion of it where they had to come up with questions and discuss those, that was an extra level of the model that kind of took it to another level in a way.
Right.
Several of you actually mentioned that on our Moodle, that the students' questions themselves were very good, and that some students could answer, and then that was a good discussion topic all the way around.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Oates. I appreciate that feedback.
All right, you're welcome.
I'm going to call on Mr. Payne, if that's okay. I see your hand raised still.
Sure. Really the only thing that I found out on my end, at least in the class I did in, was World History AP. Everything that I had possibly that could be counted as a negative, looking back and reflecting on it, was really more on my end, and just needing to figure out how to prepare for these a little bit better. And one idea that I'm going to do is actually go through the whole process of it myself, because I've not done that much of this type of thing before. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to get in on this when you told me about it. So really the negatives on my end were just me. But my kids...
Well, I appreciate you being critical of yourself like that.
Well, I mean, and I'm kind of an old school guy, so, but I'm willing to step out of my comfort zone and try new things. So, you told me about this, and I know you've had a lot of success with it, using this type of thing in your class already. So,
excellent. Well, I'm sure you're not being overly critical. I do appreciate you doing that self-reflection, because I know that's what moves us forward. Oftentimes we're willing to put, some shortfalls on another thing and aside from looking introspectively, but I appreciate you doing that. Thank you for the feedback. Joanna, I see that your hand is still raised. What is it that you tried the model with?
Oh, well, yeah, thank you. I really like the way this went on with my students because I didn't try to do something like that before. I was afraid that my students wouldn't be that involved in a conversation, which actually surprised me because they were really active. I think we needed more time because we went over the whole process of them writing the answers and revising all the documents, underlining, circling things, which was pretty good because they liked the topic. I chose the police body cameras.
Okay.
So they were really into that. They were really involved, but we ran out of time to keep talking about it. So I really liked it the way it turned out, and it gave me like consistency and a structure to go into any other kind of conversation that we can have.
Right, and I imagine that particular topic is fueled heavily by current events too. I imagine moving forward, as you do this more often, the overall process will speed up as students are more comfortable and understand the model. Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
All right, Mr. Ginnity, I know you had a very interesting way of collecting data and feedback from your students. Would you be kind enough to share with us what you had done to get your feedback?
Sure. My class is honors American history too, so I wasn't concerned about their ability to work together in groups and to discuss it. But I did send a Google survey form to kind of get what their feedback was, and they generally did like the form. So I found out that I think some of the high flyers really found it kind of unnecessary because they have that process down, organizing information and so forth. But I really did like, as mentioned before, the fact that they developed their own questions, which is interesting. So it's not locked in just the way I'm thinking of. Also help them to think about, what did they understand and be able to discuss that in their group. It also got me thinking that maybe I need to come up with an alternative, either modify the form or come up with something else for the high flyers so that I can stretch them a little bit more.
Yeah, you definitely are encouraged to modify the model as you see fit to meet your students' individual needs, definitely. Yeah, I thought that was a really interesting tactic to use the Google form, and I have yet to do so myself, but do have plans to utilize that. That's a great idea. All right, I don't see any other specific hands up right now, but if there's anyone else that would like to contribute to this portion of the conversation, go ahead and raise your hand. We'd be glad to call on you. The feedback so far has been great, and I know it's benefiting all of us. Mr. Oates, you went ahead and raise your hand again. Is that a leftover from before? Did you mean to do that?
Yeah, I was just going to say one thing, take about 10 seconds.
Sure. No problem.
The Newsella article is based on the high flyer thing, and I might have put this in the Moodle, but the ones I was looking at, and there was a resource you guys gave, Newsella, had like 5 different reading levels for each article. So, that was something I thought they use next time for lower level readers or whatnot.
Yeah, I do know for the higher level students, there are a couple of resources that I have access to personally that I've used, a Taking Sides book and an Opposing Viewpoint series, and those have great articles. I would argue they are for students with elevated reading levels, but for those of us that are looking for things a little bit more challenging, the Opposing Viewpoint series and the Taking Sides series have great articles. And one of the things I wanted to speak to that was mentioned by several of you is students coming up with quality questions themselves. I think that's amazing. It really shows that the students are taking ownership over the text that they're looking through and the content that they're going over. And of course, that then drives the conversation, and you might end up traveling down avenues that otherwise would have remained unexplored because they're the ones that created those questions. I really like that some of you have experienced that with your students so far. Is there anyone else that would like to raise their hand and contribute? All right, we're going to go ahead and go on to our next component. Well, actually, before we move on, has anyone tried this more than once? I know I've done it several times with one particular class, and I am noticing the whole process speed up. Students have not become disinterested in it. Like one class I've done it 3 times now, and the third time I unveiled it, there was no audible sighs or anything like that. No, nothing like that. They really did seem to be excited that they were going to be doing this again. Is there anyone else that has done it more than once in the same class?
Sean, can you talk about your experience?
Sean. I guess Sean is not hearing us right.
Oh.
Oh, I see Sean typing there. One sec. No problem, Sean. We'll wait for you. Yeah, I was very surprised the third time I tried using this in one class that I did not get any negative feedback for it, but they definitely seemed excited. All right, Sean, I see some encouragement there by 0234. Way to stay anonymous.
Or non-encouragement. That's a good idea. Tina was reflecting that she wants to try it again before they forget the process. And that is a good idea to kind of move into that so that they don't lose all of the, oh, that's right, when I get here, I do this. Good idea there.
Yeah, that immediate reinforcement, I imagine, would pay in dividends. My crime and justice class is a fun one, but it's a social studies elective that gets students from 9 to 12, some who haven't had civics. Yeah, your crime and justice class, that's interesting. I imagine there are some topics that would really lend themselves nicely to that overall content area, especially with the resources that are provided on the Moodle. There's many different examples that would work well in that class. So some are not interested in it, some are. I imagine most of the interest would be driven by the particular topics that you choose and how well, how good a job you do in making them realize the value of it, definitely.
And Carol mentioned that the idea of moving it away from the debates, that some students were like, ooh, I'm going to get in, I'm going to fight, but the fact that you end with mutual respect. And I do think that that was kind of new learning for some of us that have done things like this in the past.
Definitely. Yeah, I refer to it as coming to consensus. Are the students able to come together and actually agree on anything? And we try to focus on the stuff that we agree on rather than the ideas that serve to differentiate what we truly believe. So I kind of try to frame it as what can we come to consensus on? So I thank you very much for all that feedback. We're going to go ahead and move forward on our PowerPoint here. And we want to look now to some of the challenges that we may have experienced. I don't mean to insult anyone's intelligence, but I'm going to read off the slide here very quickly and make sure, no pun, we're on the same page. Did you face any challenges or difficulties in implementing the civil conversation? And is there anything in particular that you would need help with from us, or anything that we would then maybe want to get from somebody else to bring back to you if we couldn't provide that help and feedback to you ourselves? So just go ahead and raise your hands if you would like to comment and contribute to this reflection on any challenges you may have had in implementing this particular model. Just not all at once, please. Regina and I get intimidated when we see all these hands fly up at the same time.
I wonder if wait time is the same for webinars as it is in the classroom.
Right, yeah. Am I supposed to wait 5 seconds, make eye contact with everyone's icon here?
Tina, the question is, did you have any challenges or difficulties? Anything that you want particular help with? Oh, we have a hand.
All right, we have a hand, Mr. Oates again, and then there's also some things mentioned on the chat window here, so we'll get to them. Mr. Oates, you're on.
Yeah, I guess really the main thing was at first just getting them to start talking. Once that happened, I felt like it went better. But just the management issues of it, being able to, get around to every table. While some groups stalled, I wasn't able to address that. And then, whatever momentum they had picked up from, talking about a topic or a question that, went away, or, getting them to keep talking, setting the time limits, what's a good time time limit for the conversation, just those management things really, and
Right.
with doing it more than once. But I guess that's what I struggled with.
So nothing that would make you think this wasn't worth doing again, though, huh?
I would say no. I guess more discouraging. And I did it in 2 different classes. Was more just engaged in it, and I had to be everywhere at once to get them to actually do it.
Right.
But I think I would try it again.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm also noticing lots of feedback here in the chat window, so be sure to browse through that as well if we don't get to call on everyone specifically. But I am going to go with the hands raised, if that's okay with you, Regina.
Okay, I'll respond to some of them on.
Sure. Go ahead,
I'm going to
please.
respond to some of you online then.
Okay, excellent. While I'm talking to those with their hand raised, Regina is going to give some feedback and respond to some via the chat window. I'd like to call on Joanna. Again, she has her hand raised. Joanna, what was it that you saw as a possible possible challenge, rather?
Oh, well, I didn't think about the fact that they were all on the same side. I had groups that they were agreeing on the same thing, that police can have to wear security cams. So I didn't know how to make them realize that they can disagree with that and give support and give ideas on how to disagree with that and not being in a bad position. So I had that problem. Like, all the students just decide to agree with the majority, so they wouldn't have to debate or support their answers because they already had it.
Right, I understand. So for some of us, the way that the articles came across to the students, it wasn't really adversarial enough. There wasn't really 2 opposing camps at all. Many times students seem to agree. Yeah, I did notice
Exactly.
that. Yeah, that's a very good point. I imagine to combat that, we want, as teachers, want to make sure we're armed with at least a couple good questions to make them think about the opposite side. It sounded like you were fully capable in doing that. So we definitely want to make sure that we're able to prompt them and force them to view the other side.
Exactly. Yeah, but that was one of the challenges because I didn't see that coming. So.
Right, yeah, definitely. Interesting. All right, well, thank you very much. Mr. Ginnity, I see your hand raised.
Yes, to play off what was just said, and not so much a challenge as maybe a challenge for myself, is to want to try it again, but use the same topic with more than one article for each group. So that, again, you can bring in the opposing points, or maybe even differentiate by the reading level, so that everybody will have something appropriate to where they're at, so they can contribute, but not be stymied by the reading if it's more challenging for someone else.
Now, are you thinking about giving every student the same articles, like multiple, or are you talking about certain individuals having one completely unique article and others in the group having something different?
I was thinking that each person in the group would have a different article.
Okay.
So it'd be the same topic, but
Right.
they could be opposing points or just different level of difficulty of reading.
Right. And that,
even more challenging, I guess, would be to maybe have different articles, maybe different subjects around a similar theme.
Right, yeah, that's another thing. I know some of us had mentioned that certain groups had gotten done earlier than others, and that was perhaps a shortfall of the overall situation. Perhaps if we had a backup article, and if a group was done earlier, we'd have another article to give them to read and try to elicit more information from the text. That might help keep them busy or occupied, but also still reinforcing the overall content. Something to think about there. That would lend itself to the point you just made as well, having multiple perspectives and multiple articles. All right, I don't see any. Thank you, Mike, first of all. But I don't see any other hands raised. I know Regina's doing a great job of commenting on the chat here. Is there anyone else that would like to contribute to the conversation about possible challenges or anything that they would need help with from us in making this a better and more positive experience the next time around? John, I see your hand raised. Is that still raised from before, or did you have anything else that you'd like to say?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it was right from before.
Okay, no problem. Thomas, good to hear from you. What is it that you experienced?
I haven't done mine yet. I've been trying to work on finish up my grad school artifacts through this weekend, but so I'm going to do mine Thursday, Friday this week. I just wanted to find out about some possible or best tips for the classroom management piece to keep the chats going on from across the room and whatnot.
Right. One of the things that I've done in the past is print out these little tickets. I call them noise pollution credits, and I give each student a ticket. And if they're conversating and it's off task, or their group overall is being too loud and basically disrespectful to other students who hear each other, I say, give me one of those noise pollution credits. And if they don't have it, then if they run out or they use more than one, then there's another penalty that goes along. I prefer using lunch detention, but I basically give them something so that they're aware beforehand that there is going to be a repercussion to this, and it forces them to think about how they're sharing this experience with others, and it's not really just about them or their individual group, but to benefit everyone else in the class to, for them to follow what are accepted norms. And also on the model itself, we have a list of expectations on how the students should conduct themselves, and you want to make sure you clearly go over that with them. And that helps them be respectful in having their immediate conversations with each other, but also how they conduct themselves as a small part within the larger group. So
Yeah, the noise pollution ticket sounds like a fantastic idea with middle schoolers because it's a physical piece that they can hold on to as a reminder, but they also have that reminder of losing it, and then having the next detention, lunch detention, be the next phase of the consequence.
And then maybe if you have like a Hershey Kiss available for everyone, they turn in those noise pollution credits for a Hershey Kiss, and if you had taken it, then they ain't getting no kiss.
I like that one. But I think I'll probably go with Jolly Ranchers.
There you go, or Starburst jelly beans, right? It's around that time of year.
One jelly bean. There you go. Cheap.
Right? Yeah. Each ticket's worth a certain number of jelly beans.
Thank you, Ben.
Well, yeah, hopefully no problem. Hopefully that works out well for you, and we can't wait to hear from you on the Moodle itself once you're done with it. And good luck on your grad work. That's awesome to hear.
I am stupid excited. Today's my wife's birthday, so that was an early birthday gift for her.
Okay, perfect. Excellent.
Yep.
All right, thank you again, Thomas. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to possible shortfalls or challenges that they experience? I don't see any hands raised, so we are going to go ahead and move forward on our PowerPoint here. Is there anyone that had any questions that didn't seem appropriate in the context of our previous slides, but want a question answered? Is there anything pending that you've been waiting to ask Regina and I about this whole experience so far? Either what you've done or moving forward? Any lingering questions or needs?
It seems like a lot of the Moodle issues have been solved recently. Everyone seems to be getting on. If you can't get on, we do need to know pretty soon for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have fielded some specific emails from people about having trouble navigating or accessing the Moodle. And from what I understand, anyone that had a problem that was immediately remedied. So with our success rate, please feel free to send us any problems that you're having with the Moodle, and I can promise we will have those remedied sooner than later. All right. Well, we want to go over now our next steps moving forward. Remember that we're all going to enjoy each other's company again on April 5th, again at ADR, for our next face-to-face, where we go over some possible role-play simulations that will also help serve to drive meaningful discussion across a variety of topics. And for everyone that enjoyed and saw value in our last meeting, I imagine we will not April 5th as well. We also...
Come hungry.
Yeah, come hungry. We will have some great food. And we'll also have another time slot set up on the Moodle for feedback and discussion about that face-to-face. As of now, we have a firm window of May 20th through 27th. That will be reflected on the Moodle as well. And I know some of us are going to be excited to put our feedback on there, and we may do so a little bit earlier. That's totally appropriate. And again, we have on here, for those of us wanting to know a little bit more about our stipends, you do have a $200 stipend that will be issued to you upon our second written reflection. And by second written reflection, you're basically going to see the form that we had done in our first face-to-face, what we called our baseline, basically. You're going to have another one of those over the internet. We're going to deliver that to everyone online. And once that feedback is sent back, you will have your $200 stipend. And then we'll have another brief and final evaluation going over the entire experience. And once that's over, you'll receive another additional $60 stipend.
We have, just to answer Cora's question, this particular time you can continue to have your civil conversations. And in fact, with the role play and simulations, we are going to take that an extra step, perhaps than some of us have done before, and move that into some conversations as well. Not just play the role and then move on, but actually have those as conversations too. So we'll just be kind of switching it up a bit, Cora, if that helps you with the approach. We deliberately set up the time frames as the third week, and so just like this is the third week in March, our May online discussions are on the Moodle are also the third week in May, May 20th through the 27th.
So the most immediate thing that should be on your radar is April 5th for our next face-to-face. Just go ahead and imagine yourself smelling that delicious food once again. We want to both appreciate everyone for participating in this webinar. We know sometimes technology can be a little bit awkward trying to facilitate a group this large, but this went very well. And thank you again to all of us who have contributed comments in the chat window and by raising your hand and speaking to everyone's benefit. So thanks again. Regina and I are glad to be of any service. So if you have any questions, comments, please email us and we'll get back to you immediately. If anyone has anything else they'd like to say, just go ahead and type so or raise your hands. But otherwise, have a great